Niner faithful, fans of the Niner Station, welcome back to our podcast. If you have not already, please like and subscribe this video. And I think we're just going to jump right into things. You know, we just had roster cuts in our last video. We got a lot going on with the Brandon Ayuk signing, Ricky Pearsall getting shot, Trent Williams holding out. We can jump in through any of those topics whenever you guys like, but hope everyone's doing well. Thank you again for joining. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing good, Thomas. It's funny because the three of us just literally got done drafting for our fantasy football Thunderdome drafts. I know you guys like your team. I'm feeling a little funny about mine. We haven't received our draft grades yet, but I'm happy to be here, guys, and let's talk some 49er football because a lot's happened in a week.
Yeah, how's it going, Thomas, Ryan? Good to see you guys. Like we said, we just got done with our draft, so we've had our fair share of a little smack talk and projections on what our fantasy teams are going to do this year. So it'll be a fun year in our fantasy league, Thunderdome, and there has been some news. I don't think either of us were talking about Ricky Pearsall getting shot last podcast. We were talking about him if he's going to be healthy for the season, ready to play, and throws a curveball into that situation. But I'm excited to talk about what the Niner season is going to look like. And this college football weekend has got me pumped up for what's going to happen here next week with the opening of NFL football. So I'm excited to see what you guys think on what the Niners are going to do and kind of what the future holds for the 49er faithful coming into the season.
Unfortunately for someone being from Tracy, the culprit in the Ricky Pearsall shooting was a 17-year-old from Tracy, if you didn't know. Not really sure the strategy there. Middle of Union Square doesn't seem like it's the best place to try to get someone's Rolex. Unfortunately for him, he also shot himself, so it was kind of an interesting little debacle. In more interesting news, Ryan and Mark, I'm coming off our fantasy football draft. I'm a little bit confident that I'll probably have a better record than both of you guys. We might have to do a hot take there, but
we can check the tape in about 16 weeks. So
I think that the Thunderdome Fantasy League this year is going to be another fun league. I think we've done it for 10 years, so now that we're finally getting a title belt, that'll be pretty exciting. Week 1 coming up. This is after roster cutdowns, right? We're just looking at practice, right? Prepping for the game against Monday night New York Jets, first Monday night game of the season. Can Aaron Rodgers make it past the first series? I mean, there's a lot going on there. Maybe we should start with week 1, a little bit of preface. I don't know about you guys, but without Trent Williams, I'm worried that the week 1 game now becomes a coin flip because the Jets bring it on defense. If Aaron Rodgers plays the whole game, we know that they're going to have a chance. They have Garrett Wilson at receiver. They got Breece Hall, who I've taken in our fantasy draft tonight, at running back. So it's kind of be a little bit of mixed feelings for me, but what do you guys think about week 1 without Trent Williams?
Week 1 without Trent Williams scares me. I was actually just at a little barbecue yesterday with my family, a Labor Day weekend barbecue. My dad, my brother, and I were talking about the season, obviously, coming up, and it's like, is 71 at practice yet? Like, that's a key component to our offense and our Super Bowl chances, and going against a defense with a guy like Robert Saleh leading that defense, knowing that we don't have a Trent Williams at the left tackle to protect Brock Purdy, it scares me. I'm not going to lie. I'm very nervous going into it based off what I saw in the preseason when Purdy was in there with his supposed starting line, other than Aaron Banks and obviously Trent Williams. I'm very nervous of what this is going to look like without him at left tackle. He's a key component to our offense, and without him, it does not run the same way. And there's no replacement for him. As much as you say, oh, Jalen Moore, he's developing, great, that's fine. But you're not Trent Williams. There's a reason Trent Williams is requesting the money he's requesting. And he's made it pretty known from what I've seen in all the articles and podcasts that I'm not coming back unless I get paid. So the bottom line is if they don't pay him, I don't think we're Super Bowl contenders. And this game against the Jets is going to be a very tough one without him at left tackle. And I think at this point, honestly, even if he does sign within the next couple of days, I don't know if he's ready to play week 1. So week 1 is up in the air without Trent Williams, in my opinion.
Yeah, like you guys, I'm also really worried about Trent Williams not being there, potentially not even playing. And like you were just saying, Mark, with Trent Williams, even if he were to report tomorrow, like how effective would he be week 1? Similar feeling with Ayuk now that he signed last week, but we'll see. He had a little bit more time to prep, be with the team, but with Trent, it's a whole different story, whole different ball game. And he is perennially known around the league as one of the, if not top 2, top 3 left tackles in the league despite his age. And it's going to be pretty difficult because not only do you have a defensive minded head coach like Robert Saleh, but he's also familiar with our team, our scheme, and some of the personnel too. If Trent Williams isn't there, even if they get pressure on Brock Purdy, their secondary is pretty elite with Sauce Gardner, all pro corner. And I think we mentioned him on a previous podcast, but former 49er DJ Reed playing corner as well. And he's pretty solid too. So it's going to be tough with that secondary and with no Trent. But even if Trent, despite being rusty, if he is rusty week 1, I still would like to have him there playing for us for sure.
Yeah, I think that Trent Williams not being there, we've already, like Mark mentioned, we've already seen what Jalen Moore is going to provide. I know Kyle Shanahan has a entirely different play script throughout the game without Trent Williams. We're not only going to the left. Guess what, everyone? We're going to actually run to the right now because it's probably equal blocking on the right side without Trent.
And to that point, Thomas, I hate to cut you off, but that means Kittle is going to be helping out and not running routes in the pass blocking game. So there's that too.
You read my mind, dude. That's exactly what I was thinking next is trickle-down effect, right? Without Trent Williams, we're going to ask Kittle to block more. We all want to see Kittle, especially for fantasy football and best ball people. We want to see Kittle have a solid start to the season by being able to run routes and get targets. But he can't if he's going to be in there blocking. Because without Trent, I think we're going strong side runs. Kittle is asked to block more. And obviously he's going to be blocking on a run play, but we're asking him to stay and chip, go off the end to the linebacker. Like, we're going to be asking his only assignment on most of our downs to be blocking. So without Trent Williams, I'm worried. I hate to say this, but if I was Trent at this point, I'm holding out through week 1 because if the Niners lose, I have leverage. The Niners win. Did they win because Jalen Moore was a better blocker than me? Highly unlikely. You might see Brock Purdy scramble and complete a random pass because of the left tackle not being Trent Williams. And you could argue that, oh, look what happened. Well, you don't want to do that against a good team with your franchise quarterback. So, yeah, without Trent, week 1 makes me nervous. We're only a week away at Monday night right now, 8:05. We are live recording. We'd be an hour into the game. So we will know, is Trent going to hold out or not in the next couple days? But if I was him at this point, if they're not going to sign me, I'm not rushing back. I'm going to say that you guys are going to lose week 1 and pay me more. I think that's his leverage. And it's unfortunate because I think Trent at this point is in his career, he's made enough money, but he also knows what he's worth. And he knows the Niners aren't a top 10 offense without him. What will we see? Like I said, I hope my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory isn't correct. I hope that he doesn't decide to use the leverage that he could get week 1 with a week 1 loss. But yeah, that's just how life is.
Yeah, that's a scary thing because sorry to cut you off, Ryan, but they need to start hot with this schedule. Like, the middle of the schedule is very tough. So, to me, they need to start off 5-1, 6-0 to give themselves a nice cushion going into that tough middle of the schedule. And without Trent Williams, that's going to be tough to do. And then on top of that, another guy, he signed the contract. You said that in the intro, Tommy. Brandon Ayuk, he's finally a 49er for the next 5 years. But what do you guys expect from him in week 1? Do you think he's going to be on a play snap count? Do you think he's going to be out there just normal Brandon Ayuk? What are you guys expecting from Ayuk week 1? Coming off of this whole offseason holdout situation?
It's a little tough with the Ricky Pearsall recent shooting because, I feel like with Ayuk just recently signing, had we had Pearsall, I could totally see Shanahan, just because it's week 1, putting him, like you said, on a pitch count or something like that. But now that Pearsall's not there, Ayuk is needed now more than ever to produce because if not, that's going to have to fall on other guys. And like we just talked about, George Kittle might have to help out with the blocking department a little bit more. So that's going to be interesting. But I think to answer your question, no, I think Brandon Ayuk is probably going to have to contribute as if he's full go.
I'd like to hope that the hold-in process with a sore back has allowed him to actually be as close to football ready as you could imagine. I do think that Brandon Ayuk is the type of player that in the behind the scenes has probably kept himself ready to go because whether he got traded or he played for the Niners, he wanted to be a star because he wanted to prove that he's worth $30 million. So I think that we're going to see a decent Ayuk, kind of actually what we were talking about, Kittle having to chip in and block. I think one of the easier things for Ayuk to adjust to football-wise will be blocking as a wide receiver. Probably, I don't know, this is definitely not a hot take. I think most people would agree with this. Top 10 wide receivers at blocking. One thing that he is unique, and for those that haven't played football, wide receivers beyond their initial blocking assignment aren't exactly known for running down the field with the running back or whoever has the ball and doing a secondary block. There's a lot of game film on Brandon Ayuk doing that for CMC. He wouldn't have set the touchdown record without Brandon Ayuk going down the field multiple times and hitting that safety or getting in the way. And he's a big body guy. So I'm really excited to have Brandon Ayuk back. I do think, though, without Trent Williams, you might see field formations with, George Kittle on the left and Ayuk wide left because you're going to need the additional blocking without Trent. So, yeah, it's great to see Ayuk back. I think in week 1, he's going to have the full workload. But I think what we're going to see more of to get him back in the game is to let him, get out there with the corners. Going against DJ Reed and Sauce, he's going to get one or the other on every play. I think he's going to go out there and try to bully him, and that's going to be fun to watch on Monday night.
Despite us having our problems with Trent Williams and the impact of not having him on the offensive line and what that does to our offense, to be fair, too, if you look on the other side of the ball to the New York offense, you have a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers. And I think with their offensive line, Tommy, they have 2 tackles that are brand new starting tackles as well. So you have 2 young new tackles in there and a 40-year-old quarterback. That's something that they're going to have to deal with too.
There's changeover in the Jets O-line. One thing that's really interesting is they're saying that there's not a lot of actual overall offensive chemistry. I don't know what that's from. Could be the O-line changeover. But
Hackett's not the best OC is part of it.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of going with this. I think Hackett only has a job because Aaron Rodgers said, I'm going to call the plays anyways, and you let me do that. So, hey, Jets ownership, make this guy the OC because he's going to let me do what I want. And in all fairness, Aaron Rodgers has been a quarterback in this league, and even when he was in college at Cal, he's always been kind of that top offensive mind, and he sees things from the field, so I'm okay with him calling his own plays. But yeah, I think that the Jets have some change in the O-line that's going to make it a little... I mean, Aaron didn't play last year, so either way, this is his first year with the O-line. But yeah, it's going to be, can they establish a run against us with Breece Hall? It's going to be, can we limit Aaron Rodgers on third downs, right? He's always historically had an ability to convert a third and long. And so we'll see. Monday night's going to be interesting because it sucks as a Niner fan to have to wait until Monday night for the game. We're going to watch and only care about fantasy, which is a blessing and a curse for Thursday and Sunday. And then Monday all day at work, just be thinking about the game. So we'll see how that goes.
I'm going to be at the game Monday night. I think Ryan, you're going to be there too, possibly. Yep. So I'll be there to see what it looks like live. But a matchup to me is that defensive line, right? Part of the reason the Niners have dominated Aaron Rodgers in the past is because we've been able to get pressure on him and make him uncomfortable and get him off his spot, get him off his timing. He's such a good playmaker, but in the past we've been able to get pass rush on him. And our defense has been athletic enough to get to him outside the pocket and make sure he can't make those spectacular plays outside the pocket. And with the injuries to Floyd and Gross Matos, I don't know what their availability is yet. They haven't really announced it. But if you're going in there with Bosa and Beal as your 2 top defensive ends, that makes me nervous. So to me, I think a big thing to watch in this game is the defensive line pressure and their ability to contain Aaron Rodgers. It's one thing to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers, right? A lot of teams have done that. And the part of what makes Aaron Rodgers special is his ability to get away from that pressure and make a big play off of that pressure, right? Devontae Adams on the scramble, whatever it is in the past. You got Garrett Wilson out there now. You got some weapons out there for him. But I want to see if our defensive line can actually contain and get to Aaron Rodgers' timing where we are frustrating him like we have in the past. The last game that I went to that Aaron Rodgers was at, I was lucky enough to go to the playoff game in Green Bay when Hufanga scooped and scored the block punt. And a big success in that game was the pressure that they got on Rodgers. They threw him off his timing. and this is probably the weakest defensive line that Rodgers has faced against the Niners. So I think for this game, a big key is getting him off his spot. Another thing I'm going to be looking for too is, while this might be the weakest defensive line that we faced or we've put against Aaron Rodgers, is our defensive backfield is probably the best that's gone against Aaron Rodgers. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think about how our DBs are going to be able to handle Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, and some of the other weapons they have on the outside in this offense in Week 1 matchup.
I think that depending on the defensive formation initially, I think we're going to play off ball, probably start, right, play safe. I think you're going to see a lot of...
One thing, do you think Charvarius is following Garrett Wilson or not, on top of what you're saying?
That's what I was going to say. I think that's actually, it's funny that you brought that up, is where I was going with this is I think we're going to unfortunately see Aaron Rodgers complete a couple first downs initially, right? In those 7 to 9 yard routes where we're going to be playing off ball. I do think that when we get into a more competitive situation as they cross the 50, that we're going to see a little bit closer coverage. And I don't think that we see Charvarius Ward follow Garrett Wilson because of the confidence in Deommodore Lenoir. And potentially even if they put him in the slot and Renardo Green's in, I think we're okay with that. I don't know if we're going to see that same baseball glove, containment of Aaron Rodgers that we've seen in the past, unless we see Floyd and Matos out there. But yeah, because if we're going Beal and Bosa, I agree with you that Aaron Rodgers is going to boot that way. He's going to go opposite Bosa, feel the pressure. And unless we get Hargrave making a weird play where he's, kind of goes from inside to outside and applies additional pressure without having both defensive ends, we can't glove contain Aaron Rodgers. So that'll be one thing to look at. Again, those, like you're talking about, those third down, he boots out of the pocket. Garrett Wilson and him have decent chemistry according to everything that came out last year. I haven't paid as much attention this year because I want to see, I do want to see Aaron Rodgers play more than one series just for a football fan. But yeah, I think that we're going to see a little bit of them completing passes in the beginning of the game because we're going to play safe. And then as things tighten up, they get closer to the end zone. Then I'm really going to be looking at the cornerbacks and how they play. Because you're right, we do have the better secondary than last year to start the season. We have a better secondary than last year to start the season, I think. Especially depth. I trust Demo against Garrett Wilson. I trust our linebackers against Conk or Brees Hall. Brees Hall catches a lot of passes out the backfield. So that is one thing to look at. It's going to really just, I think in the beginning, we're going to see them get a couple first downs, I guess is all I'm saying. And then people are going to freak out. And then we're going to see the coverage tighten as they get closer to the end zone.
You mentioned Brees Hall. I know you took him in our draft. I have him in another draft. And even from a fantasy perspective, I'm curious to see how Brees does against 49er defense, particularly because in the fantasy world, he's always taken as like a top 8-9 player. So to go against a top defense like us, it'll be fun to watch. But someone on the defense that I'm looking forward to watching, and I'm hoping that he has a breakout game of sorts or like a breakout party of sorts, is Malik Collins, our free agent that we signed. If we're not getting what we need on the end, Bosa hopefully will get his, but I'm really hoping that we get that interior pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And Hargrave and Malik Collins, this could be their time to really eat because we're going to need it.
Yeah, that defensive line, there's a lot of pressure on that defensive line. Chris Kaczmarek has arguably been one of the best coaches in the Shanahan era. He's gotten the most out of a lot of players that have come in and played on the defensive line. When I'm looking at it, now that we're talking about this, when I'm looking at the defensive line, really Bosa is the only OG of this defensive line, right? There's no more Armstead. There's no more Buckner. There's no more, I guess Kevin Gibbons is kind of an OG, but it's a lot of new faces. So coming into this season, week 1, it's like, okay, can these guys that they brought in this offseason live up to the Niner standard of defensive line? It's one in football more than any other sport. There's a standard that's set in programs. A little off topic, I watched a video of Deion Sanders breaking down the film from the North Dakota State game they played, right? I don't know if you watched it, but it was a great game. North Dakota State made it competitive. I thought they would. I called the upset that North Dakota State was going to win. But he's breaking down the film saying, hey, this is a championship standard. Every play, there's 11 guys. When the whistle is blown on defense, on North Dakota State, when they're on defense, there's 11 guys around the football. right? That's a standard that's set. And there's been a standard for the Niners, but Bosa now is kind of in charge of setting that standard. There's no more Armstead. There's no more Buck. He's the guy that's been here kind of since day one of Shanahan era. So we need to see that standard being set, and I'm curious to see if it will be set. I think it will be. I believe in Bosa as a leader. He's kind of a leader by action, I think, based off what I've seen. I'm not at practice. I'm not in the locker room, so I don't hear him talking. I know he gives his Saturday pregame speeches, but he seems like a guy that's a leader by example. But I'm excited / nervous to see if this defensive line can keep up to that standard. But at the same time, I'm also excited to see what this offense can do with the young weapons we have. I don't know if you guys saw the post today that Cowing is wearing number 19, a little homage to Debo Samuel. I'm excited to see what this offense can do, and I think that as much of a concern I have on not a concern, but just a curiosity for the defensive performance against the Jets, I'm excited to see what our young guys do on offense. And seeing Cowing take 19, I'm excited to see what he does. What do you think the offense should look like against the Jets week 1?
Well, I mean, I do think we see Cowing more often than not for a typical fourth wide receiver. Obviously, he's going to be out there returning punts. CMC versus Jordan Mason is also one thing we still have to think about because they still haven't cleared CMC. As new weapons, Jordan Mason, I guess you could still say, even though we've been talking about Jordan Mason on this podcast for years, it feels like years. It's been 1 year, right? And he was a rookie last year. So our offense is going to hopefully be able to, at the end of the day, worst case scenario, maintain the pace of scoring that the Jets do. Because, like Mark was saying, there's a little bit of a different defensive turnover here, and we have set a standard for the D-line being something that is a core component of the 49ers team. Malik Collins, we saw Jordan Elliott highlight, the middle of the defensive line is actually going to be a little bit more stout this year, so we're going to end up really focusing on that extra edge rusher. Niners will probably do something at the trade deadline or before the season starts. Still my call from last week, but again, switching over to offense, I'm hoping that we don't have to have George Kittle block a lot. I think that's what we see in week 1 is the mismatch with Kittle versus a linebacker. Although the Jets have a stout defense and they have solid linebackers, I don't even know. I think K1 was there for a bit.
I was going to say, sorry, you know who is, I think, at safety there? Isaiah Oliver is on the team now. Actually, former 49ers on the team are Isaiah Oliver and Javon Kinlaw.
That's right, Kinlaw's there. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so we'll see some familiar faces on Monday night.
For the 49ers defense, though, I don't know if you guys saw, though, Hufanga was cleared, and he's going to be active week 1.
Well, I guess we're not going to see Mustafa, but
yeah,
maybe
I think Mustafa's going to play. That guy showed out in the preseason.
Yeah, he showed out, and you never know. Like, it's his first game back from injury. He may be on like a limited play count or some sort, so we may get our wish come true and see some Mustafa in there. But Tommy, you talked about it. You touched on it. One thing that I'm really looking forward to on the offense is seeing how Kyle Shanahan uses Christian McCaffrey, given that he is recovering from a calf strain and we're entering the season. And we talked about how important it is to start the season off strong and really get these wins early against these for all intents and purposes, winnable games. So I'm interested to see how he kind of takes the long game into play in limiting his play time, if he's productive and how much we see Jordan Mason. So I'm interested to see how they split the backfield and how Kyle Shanahan draws it up.
To me, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, it needs to be a 50-50 split, if not more, leaning towards Jordan Mason, right? Because you know what Christian McCaffrey brings to the table. You know what he can do in this offense. You don't need to see it. What you need Christian McCaffrey for is January and February football, right? This is a Super Bowl team. To me, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm saying, hey, Christian, welcome back. I'm glad you're healthy. You're going to be the starter. You'll be out there first snap. But Jordan Mason's going to get this workload. Now, if a quarter and a half in, maybe halftime, Jordan Mason is not getting the job done, then you say, okay, Christian, get in there. We're going to ride you. But to me, this is a perfect opportunity to see if Jordan Mason is up to the task. Like, let me see if you are truly that guy. Monday Night Football, opening week of the season, literally all eyes are watching. Every eye in the NFL is watching. Prove to me that you can handle this. And if you can handle this, then you're going to get a fair share of the load going for the whole season and into the playoffs and hopefully a Super Bowl. So to me, that's a good point. McCaffrey's going to be back, supposedly. I haven't heard any official announcement that he's back. But Jordan Mason, hey, you've had a hell of a camp. You've had a hell of a preseason. Go out here week 1 against the Jets, Robert Saleh, a good defense. The Jets are not a scrub defense. They're a top 10 defense. Go out there and prove that you can be a guy that averages 4.5, 5 yards a carry, can catch the ball at the backfield, and prove that, hey, when you're facing the 49ers, not only do you have to worry about Christian McCaffrey, you have to worry about Jordan Mason. So I think this is an opportunity right now for Shanahan to break that mold. Say, I'm not going to ride Christian because, I was his babysitter when he was a kid and I trust him and all these things. Obviously, he's so good, but let Christian McCaffrey get half the workload. And can you imagine the explosiveness he has not being a guy that's touching the ball 30 times a game? I'm just saying, to me, this is a perfect opportunity to let Jordan Mason just prove himself as a running back in this league.
Well, I think we can all agree that if we see a typical McCaffrey workload, that it better come from meaningful carries. Better not be that bullshit that, we're going to give Christian the ball every play or throw him the ball so he can set the touchdown record. I don't want to see that. I want to see, like you said, Mark, I want to see Jordan Mason be factored into this so that way the rest of the league could be put on notice. It changes the game plan of the rest of the league. You can do this Monday night with all eyes on us, where if we can show that we not only have CMC and we don't have to give him, 25 touches because he's the only person that we can give the ball to at running back, and then we put in Jordan Mason instead, maybe get McCaffrey down to 17 rushing attempts, 7 or 8 passing. I think in week 1 he's still going to get the load, but I am worried because he hasn't played. Is McCaffrey ready? Probably. But wouldn't it be dumb to see McCaffrey get hurt because we did something stupid like giving him 30 rush attempts? And we don't need to. I feel like
the sweet spot for McCaffrey is 15 to 20 touches a game. 15 to 20 is a perfect sweet spot for him.
Perfect. Across passing and rushing,
yes.
Yeah.
Rushing, passing, 15 to 20. Yep.
If he's getting tackled 25 times, then we need to start looking at what are we doing, because we don't have to, right? Jordan Mason has proven that he could do the exact same thing, slightly different, and then, he's more, I'm going to be honest, tackling Mason in the open field when he runs a 4.3 and he's 225 is going to be a little bit harder than tackling McCaffrey at 215, 210, whatever McCaffrey actually is. I mean, McCaffrey is fast. He's not Jordan Mason fast. Mason downhill is going to be way harder to tackle as DB, and seeing that more often would be a breath of fresh air. Is it likely? I mean, week 1's going to tell. 50-50 is probably what I would say, though. I don't feel more confident than 50-50 that Mason gets the workload he deserves and McCaffrey gets a form of load management, if you will.
Here's a bold take for Monday night. Do you think that we're going to see another Jordan Mason touchdown via Pooney push like we've been seeing the past couple preseason games?
I think Monday night we see a Jordan Mason touchdown. I don't know if it's a Pooney push, but I think we see a Jordan Mason touchdown around the goal line. I think Shanahan says, hey, here we go. I've been developing you over the last couple of years as a running back, and I'm giving you this opportunity. Let's make a statement. I think if you're on underdog fantasy, Thomas got me on that with the best ball. I think I'm going to be taking Jordan Mason over half a touchdown because I'm pretty sure that's what his mark's going to be. I'm taking Jordan Mason over a half a touchdown, in my opinion.
Exact same take. The only caveat I have to add is I think Mason gets the second rushing touchdown. I think McCaffrey stays in until he gets the first touchdown. And then after that, I think they'll probably pull him and let Mason do his thing in the goal line. Because at that point, hopefully we're up, 14-7, 14-3. And we can kind of start to look at what we want to do with the, second string skill players. At that point, too, I also hope that we see Cowing. I want
to see Cowing.
I want to see Cowing in the first half.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him actually in the second, get there at the end of the game. And
I will
kind
say
of be
this.
He's going to be I think Shanahan wants to use him as kind of the same way you would change a pace back, a running back, as a change of pace receiver, right? Because he's going to do things different. He's going to be a slot receiver. He might be lined out, but I think he's a slot guy, right? I don't know what his snap share is, but I'd like to see Cowing end of the first half and then most of the second half as, like I said, change of pace receiver.
Ryan, I'm going to say this. You're going to be at the game. If we get a first quarter Jordan Mason touchdown, I'll meet you at the bar right there by the entrance where the Clark catch statue's at, and we'll get a shot of whiskey right there for a Jordan Mason touchdown, because I think that's very possible. I think, Ryan, I was at the game with you with the Browns. It was a Monday night game. Breida took it in like 96 yards for the first play. I could see Jordan Mason, maybe not the first play because obviously Christian's going to start, but I could see sixth play of the game, Christian comes off. He's had already 4 touches because it's sixth play of the game, and Mason comes in and just busts one for a long run. If that happens, me and you need to go celebrate.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the whole stadium just going to erupt if Jordan Mason scores a touchdown. It's going to be so crazy. Like, the whole fan base is behind him at this point. So we're all rooting for you, Jordan Mason. And Tommy, we'll try our best to FaceTime you. I know Levi Stadium is apparently they're working on improving their Wi-Fi as part of all this investment that they just put in. So we'll test that Wi-Fi bandwidth on Monday.
Well, what else is going on with the game? Is that the only hot take you have?
I think another hot take I have is this. Tatum Bethune supplants Devondre Campbell as linebacker number 2, has the second most tackles behind Fred Warner at linebacker position. I think that Bethune's going to get put in the game. This is a crazy take, and I know I'm you could say I got hit in the head or something, but Bethune, I think, is going to. We'll circle back to this when the playoffs start, and Justin Jefferson's the highest rated fantasy football player this year. I think Tatum Bethune is going to get in the game and make a huge play, whether it's a pick, a forced fumble, it could be on special teams. I think Tatum Bethune is going to have a huge play in this game. Just my take. But if you're asking me for a hot take in this game, that's my hot take. Because Jordan Mason scoring a touchdown, that's not a hot take. Like, he's our RB2. I think Tatum Bethune that's a hot take, in my opinion. And I think it might happen. A pick, a forced fumble on special teams. At the end of the day, you're going to hear Bethune with the ball, giving the Niners good field position.
I'm going to go Hufanga, hot take. Game changer play.
That's a big one. He has not practiced
First
all
game
offseason.
back, hasn't practiced.
Yeah.
That guy's football IQ is top 10 in the game. I mean, there's a reason why people compare him to Troy Polamalu. It's because he puts himself in a position to change game and change field position for the Niners at any point. So I do think that I do like Bethune actually to make a play. You're right. Whether it's on special teams like a fumble recovery or some shit like that, or a forced fumble, right? However we put him on the field, I really like Bethune. I think he's a playmaker. He's kind of got that same football IQ where he's going to put himself at a higher percentage.
He's always around
to
the ball.
Make a play. He's always around the ball. But I think we're going to see game 1 of Hufanga try to bring himself back into the spotlight, and that's probably going to. I hate to say it, I'm going to call right now, knock on wood, Aaron Rodgers pick to Hufanga.
What's your hot take, Ryan? Let's hear it.
My hot take was the Pooney push to Jordan Mason touchdown.
Yeah, that's not as
I would
hot.
I would call that like a pico de gallo at Chipotle take, not the hot salsa take.
Dang,
It's not the red salsa. It's not the red salsa.
It's not the red salsa take.
Damn.
No, but that's awesome, guys. So, once again, it's always great getting back together with you guys. Thank you again if you've listened this far to the Niner Station. If you have not already, but if you are 40 minutes in, I'm hoping that you've liked and subscribed all of our videos. But if you haven't, please do. Thanks again. We're going to close it out here. Bang, bang.
Niner gang.
Niner gang.